Viewers, the recent warning by the EU to Elon Musk regarding his upcoming interview with Donald Trump has reignited the contentious debate surrounding free speech. With great audience comes great responsibility. This was the post by Thierry Breton, the EU commissioner who wrote an open letter to Musk ahead of a planned interview to remind Musk of EU's rules on promoting hate speech. The letter mentioned that Musk has a legal obligation to stop amplification of harmful content. This incident lays bare the glaring hypocrisy of an ecosystem that champions liberty or claims to champion liberty and open expression, yet repeatedly seeks to stifle it, viewers, while Musk responded with a meme from the 2008 movie. The Trump campaign has blasted the EU as enemy of free speech. Viewers, the EU's move is not an isolated event. It's part of a larger pattern of censorship and selective suppression of voices. Trump's ban from Twitter and the deliberate blackout of his speech after a caucus win are stark reminders of this trend. Such actions reek of double standards on part of those who proudly proclaim their commitment to free speech. It exposes a disturbing willingness to silence dissenting voices and manipulate public discourse. The underlying message is clear. Free speech is only tolerant when it conforms to the prevailing narrative. Viewers, this hypocrisy undermines the unfettered exchange of ideas and perspectives. By policing speech and suppressing dissent, we risk creating an echo chamber that stifles free exchange of ideas. It's time to confront this hypocrisy head on tonight.
You know, you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission, like saying, you know, to not have disinformation on during this discussion that we're having, like, and you know, there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries, and you know, what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible.
Let's open this up. Vibhuti Jha, ex-Republican candidate for New York Assembly, joins us. Peter Kuznick, author, also with us. Sanjay Jha, author, completes the panel. Dr. Ranganathan stays on. Vibhuti Jha, what do you make of this EU advisory before the Trump-Musk conversation?
Thank you very much for having me, and your opening statement on the freedom part was very, very strong and very valid. I totally agree with you. Thank you for making that wonderful start. But my thought process is very simple. Currently, the way the fascist system is operating on a selective basis, freedom for me, not for thee. And freedom is being used and abused and misused as the fault line of democracy. That's the sad part. And that has become that, you know, I will practice, I will do whatever I want, but I will not let you do what you want. And, you know, pity that EU chief quoted from Spider-Man movie, great responsibility, great power comes great responsibility. And he issued the instructions even before the show aired, not knowing what the content and deliberations are going to be. So that is truly remarkable. We can see for ourselves that those who are preaching and talking about freedoms are exercising very fascist behavior towards everybody else. Somewhere along the line, anybody who is right of center is evil. That is the narrative built around everything else. So I'm totally in agreement with you that EU chief jumped the gun, if I may say so. And the hypocrisy showed remarkably well, because in the entire interview, there was nothing that merited censoring. This is what is important to figure out. And this is very important to know also that EU is seeking to implement, the bureaucracy of EU is seeking to implement its thoughts and processes on every country in the world. And people in India need to worry about it. Because the opposition in India is doing the same thing. Sometimes they feel like the toolkit operators have the same script to read from.
Now, you haven't taken names, but Sanjay Jha is already smiling. But before I bring him in, Peter Kuznick, I want to, bring you in. I mean, before a broadcast even begins, 4 hours before the conversation, comes this advisory, and you know the contents of the advisory. Isn't it interference, imposition, clampdown, whatever you want to say?
Well, I think this situation is a little more complicated than your first guest indicated. We are living in a dangerous world now, in which there's a lot of lies and misinformation being circulated, and they've got an enormous audience for this. And there are many people out there who believe very dangerous lies. Now, the fact that it's the European Union that's doing this is not insignificant. They lived through this. They lived through this with Hitler. They lived through this in the 1930s and 1940s. They lived through this in the Holocaust. They lived through this in World War II. And they understand the danger of very harmful content and overt, explicit lies. In this interview between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, we saw many of those lies being repeated, and Musk did no fact-checking, did not question Trump when Trump told his lies about climate change and global warming, when Trump told his lies about crime in the United States, when Trump told his lies about immigrants. These are all out of the fascist playbook. And so there's reason. Now, on the other hand, I'm a big critic of media. I do agree that the media is very problematic, that it's very constrained, very limited, and people who see the world outside the narrow framework that most major media prescribes are not given access to the media. But there's a difference between different opinions and different analyses and interpretations and overt lies. And overt lies should be censored, should be monitored.
Kuznik, how do you think the EU knew of overt lies even before the broadcast? I mean, this is they have superpower capabilities, just like the code that they've used from a superpower, a superhero film. This is bizarre.
Because we've been living in this world for the past decade, and Trump is a pathological liar, and Trump's lies are very, very destructive. Whether it's we're seeing the effect of this. And when Trump gets called out on this, he doesn't defend himself.
Okay, so don't let him speak.
Louder and louder.
Right. Dr. Sanjay Jha, let's not get into the India parallel, but as someone, who believes in the principle of free speech, liberty, what is your reading of this?
Pranesh, good evening. I want to make a couple of points rather quickly. Let me start by quoting to you Mitt Romney, a man who was a Republican candidate against Barack Obama. Donald Trump is a phony, a fraud. His promises are as worthless as a degree from Trump University. This is a prominent Republican man. As you know, and I think all the panelists know, Donald Trump is the first convicted felon who served as a United States president. As I think Peter rightly pointed out, the Donald Trump and the Republican campaign is based, Pranesh, on conspiracy theories, on disinformation campaigns. The alt-right, by the way, I'm not going to draw a parallel to India because you said not to do so, but the alt-right, or what we call here as the far right, literally every day pushes out a campaign which maligns the opposition in particular, but basic purpose is to polarize society. Now, the EU is fully aware, as Peter again correctly said, as to how Donald Trump uses these platforms, where he, by the way, called his rival Kamala Harris as beautiful, which is, again, in my opinion, tells you about a man who, by the way, was convicted for offering.
That's okay. Just because he was convicted. No, 1 minute. Sanjay Jha, Sanjay Jha, I have high regards for you, sir. But just because Donald Trump was convicted does not mean you snatch away the rights of a man to air his views. Dr. Ranganathan, there's very little time. Sanjay Jha, there's very little time. I'll have to bring Dr. Ranganathan in.
Let me make this point.
Okay.
I'm glad today you're worried about free speech. Where were you when Mr. Modi's government threatened to close down Twitter in India? Jack Dorsey has publicly stated that Mr. Modi's government threatened to close down Twitter.
Yeah, and you don't know, and you don't know on the basis of the complaints, the government was mulling that action, but that's a separate debate. And even then, Sanjay Jha. We had that debate. You can check our clips. So we've had that conversation. Dr. Ranganathan, what is the problem? Don't like Trump, don't let him speak?
On a lighter note, first of all, this is a historic day, Pranesh. Thank you for managing it. For years, we've been trying to get on top of my good friend Sanjay Jha, and you got his brother to do that. So the nemesis is right there. I hope this is not a Cain and Abel show. But my vote goes for my good friend Vibhuti as well. No, but look, this two of the panelists have talked about issues that are straight out of the communist ban everything, cancel everything playbook, because they want to be the ones who would decide what is fake, what is a lie. That is classic 101. Look, we are living in a world where you believe what you see. But unfortunately, what you see is written by those who see what they believe. Objectivity has become that metallic object that must be left behind before you pass through the electronic threshold. Pranesh, biases don't beep anymore. We are a deeply polarized society. This isn't objectionable, because polarization means you have a clash of ideas, that there is competition among them, and so it mirrors Darwinian evolution. Science, religion, capitalism, communism, right wing, left wing, Modi, Rahul. There's nothing wrong in professing diametrically opposite likes and dislikes and views, even if you hold entrenched views. But the problem comes when one party, one ideology, one dogma, one system controls the discourse or weighs in on it. That's when you stop being objective and start to editorialize and play God. Because selecting what to flag, what to ban, what to cancel, what not to is a subjective decision, much like taking offense or an abuse or appreciating or condemning an idea. Let me give you one example, just 30 seconds. Let's say I tweet, the earth was formed in 6 days and the man created from black mud. Now, science tells us that this is a total and obvious lie. So should Twitter flag it? Should EU cancel it as fake news and withhold my tweet? But these are verses from the Holy Book, chapter 7, verse 54, chapter 15, verse 26. What if the fact checker adjudicating on my tweets was deeply religious and believed my tweets to be true? Would he disregard science and pass on my tweets? Or what if he was an atheist or a scientist like me? Would he flag my tweet and ask for it to be deleted? Bottom line is, any platform, any organization enabling a discourse cannot play God or atheist, because then it becomes an echo chamber. And if it does, that's where diversity ends. Mutation stall, mixing is prevented, and evolution shut down. The best way, Pranesh, to kill learning is to learn only one thing.
Thank you, Dr. Ranganathan. And I hope Dr. Sanjay Jha is in agreement with, if not you, with Vibhuti Jha. But we completely... Okay, you're not.
Not
okay.
Pranesh.
Okay.
We are dealing with a man, we are talking about Donald Trump, who incited an insurrection against his own government.
That does not mean he can't speak anymore. Sanjay Jha, now come on, sir. Now,
intellectually
unfortunately, we've run out of time. It's an amazing panel. Would have loved to carry on, but compulsions dictate on television. We're taking a short break. Navika Kumar on the news are joining you on the other side.